Well, hello. It's time for another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This is the show where I talk about the fountain pens and inks I've been using throughout the week. So, let's dive into it. If videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And I've got some fun topics, both controversial and not controversial, so feel free to comment down below. So let's take a look at some pens. Alright, so these are the pens and inks I've been using this week from left to right. I have the Twisby Draco, Sailor Mini, Parker Vector, Lamy 2000, Shaffer Legacy 2, a Platinum Izumo, a Pilot E95S, Platinum President, Senator President. I'll tell you why I said Platinum President in a second. And finally a Waterman Reflex. So, Platinum President, I'm thinking about it because I would like to do a video since they're discontinuing the President and it has the same nib as this Izumo. I want to do a video. I'm thinking about filming it this weekend because the President is basically out of ink. Comparing the Platinum President and the Sheaffer Izumo. Gosh darn it. The Platinum President and the Platinum Izumo. Holy cow. This is why I don't like to film at night. So let's take a look at the pens. As always, I'll be doing my writing sample in this Cognitive Surplus notebook, the seafood flavored edition. Calamari. Actually, can you call octopus calamari? Oh, there's a squid. Okay. I'm safe saying calamari. What do you call octopus? But anyway, this first pen is a Twisby Draco. Will not be on that list of pens I'm going to try to sell, because I like it. It's very pretty. I like how it writes. I like how it feels. I like how it fills. I like how everything. Some people told me they didn't like the small nib, but I don't mind it, so that's all that matters. It's my pen. Twisby Draco. And mine has a medium nib on it. And the ink in it is one of my favorites. It is Noodler's Black Swan and Australian Rose. Some of the Noodler's inks have some bad habits. But as far as I have experienced, this is not one of them. And when I say bad habits, I mean things like, don't dry on the page, feather like crazy, stain things. This is a very nice ink. And honestly, a lot of the Noodler's inks are. Noodler's gets a bad reputation because there's a couple wild critters in its lineup. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Bay State Blue. And of course, Nathan Tardif, the creator of Noodler, seems to just enjoy controversy. Probably a more extreme version than me, because I'm pretty mild with my controversy on this channel. My next pen is a Knight is a Sailor Mini. A form factor for a pocket pen that I like very much. In fact, I'm thinking about comparing some pocket pens soon, and this would be one of the ones I'm going to compare. Because I got a couple of videos I can do. And I started to write Swan. Holy cow. Sailor Mini. And this is, what, a fine or an extra fine? I forget. Do I care? Not a lot. Oh, fine. We'll go with fine. I think I see an F. And does it really matter? No. So this is Sailor Gentle Blue. Although to my eye, it looks more like a blue-black. I was going to put something else more exciting in this pen, but I totally mislaid the cartridge I had in it before, so I had to start a new cartridge, and that's fine. Let's let's get a few empty Sheaffer cartridges. Then it's easier to switch out inks with this pen. So I like this form factor. I think the pen is very comfortable. Do I like it as well as, say, my Lamy 2000 for daily writing? Oh, heck no. But I don't think it's meant to be used in the same way. One thing I was told is that Japanese shirts have did have a special pocket for pens like this, and that's what was meant rather than the pants pocket the way, say, a Kaweco Sport would be used. So when I do my big pocket pen roundup rodeo critter, we'll find out. And I also think it would be fun to compare this to the other Japanese incarnations of the same shape. Then we get to a surprise I had. One of the good things that happened last week. So back in high school, I liked fountain pens because I bought my first one when I was 10 years old. I don't remember exactly when I did this. It was either in high school or college. But I used to work at a pizza place. It was beside a Rite Aid drugstore. And I remember I had always wanted a steel Parker Vector because I thought they looked sharp, but I never saw one for sale. But I saw a rollerball, a steel rollerball pen for sale. So I bought that, and I bought a plastic one because by then I had money from working at the fast food place, and I just decided, let's see what happens. So I learned a few things. I had to trade out the inner caps. I had to take this white bit of plastic here off, unscrew the inner cap, replace it with one from a fountain pen, and then glue this back in. It's held. And somewhere along the line I lost this pen, and so last week I was in the box where like my high school diploma and a couple other things from high school are, and I found it there. And I just like, whoa, I'd totally forgotten I'd even done this. But, you know, the memory came back once I saw the pen. So I inked it up. So we've got a Parker Vector. Is it a wonderful pen? No. And what's the name of it? A medium. Vector is a reliable pen, but it's not one I consider particularly comfortable. The ink in it is platinum, carbon black. So I'll be addressing envelopes and such with this pen for a while till the ink runs out. And I still haven't found the very first fountain pen I ever bought, so one of the places that I used to live in has been torn down, so it probably will not be found there. But hey, if you're living in one of the places where I used to live and you run across a red Parker Vector, I'd love to have it. Not because it's a wonderful pen, but because of the memories. More recent vintage, I have my beloved Lamy 2000. I will always think this is not as good as the first one I ever owned. But really, we kind of tend to wear rose-colored glasses when we talk about the past. I just refilled it yesterday. This is the pen where a few years ago I was working at my desk at school, set this down for a second, uncapped of course, and it roll, fell onto the floor, nibbed first, and went boop! So that was a merry adventure. So this is a Lamy 2000. Not my first one, but I like the pen well enough to replace it. It's a fine point, and the ink in it is Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Black. And this pen ends up, it spends all winter working. I will empty it out at the holidays and give it a good clean. And then it'll be used again steadily up through the end of school. And then it takes a break for the summer, and I use other pens as my daily writers. If I go for a week to take a class or something, I usually ink up my Pilot Custom 823. Use that as my daily writer because I know I don't have to worry about running out of ink in a whole hurry. Douglas Rathbun talked about one of these, a Shaffer Legacy. I had thought that he had bought it, but apparently it was only loaned to him, but now he wants to buy one. Nice vintage pen from the 90s with a fun inlaid nib. So Sheaffer. Oh, come on. You were just writing like 5 minutes ago, dude. What's up with this? Unless it's almost out of ink, because I have been using it a lot this week. You know, we'll be fair to the pen. You may have just witnessed me running out of ink in it. Okay, it's writing on the napkin now. I think it is running out of ink. Sheaffer, wow. Of course, you can't tell the ink level in these pens because it's got this kind of converter. Let's do something kind of risky. We'll do it over a paper towel. We'll pull this out and snork it down. Yeah, I didn't spray any ink. This puppy's empty. All right. So if you want to see that pen in action, I did put the link down below. You can just read, you can watch its original first impression. Moving on. My next pen is one that you bought me. This is a Platinum Izumo. Which is just a beautiful finish. I have wanted a Platinum Izumo for years, and it finally took accumulating enough channel income for me to talk myself into it. And what's it been, 2 years now that I've had it? Something like that. You know, my channel income goes back into the channel. Although I will admit that part of my income this year is going toward a new computer because I use the computer for this channel, so I figure that's fair. Alright, so Platinum Izumo, what was I saying? Oh, the ink. Rohrer and Klingner Helianthus. So I have always wanted a nice, bright, happy yellow. And I've seen a lot of them. I've bought a lot of samples. Oops, Rohrer and Klingner. But most of them, when you actually write with them, are too pale to actually read. This is one of the few that you can actually read. If you heard that, yes, that is my furnace coming on. I used to be a tough guy and be like, no, I am not turning on that furnace till November. But eventually I figured out that, yeah, when it's super cold outside and you really want that furnace, is not the time to discover, oh, it didn't start. So now, when I first get uncomfortable in the fall, I fire that puppy up. Because I figure 40-some or 30-some degree weather is the time to discover your furnace doesn't work, not like the teens or the 20s. Alright, and then I have what got me into those vintage Japanese pocket pens, the modern Pilot E95S. This has a medium nib on it, and the ink in this bad boy is Colorverse Golden Record. I've kind of eased off of that whole I'm going to use up bottles of ink thing because I found I was not enjoying the collection of inks I was using. But this is one I would like to use up. And it's in a small bottle, so it will be fairly easy to use up. But yeah, I'm just going to use them up as I use them up, is what I finally decided. I'm only going to focus on the small bottle so I can get a bunch of victories out under my belt. Nope, I'm going to enjoy the inks I have and ink up what I like. And if I use up something that I don't want to replace, I won't replace it. If I use up something I do want to replace, I will think about it and may wait to replace. because I let myself get too far down the ink rabbit hole, because I enjoy different color inks, but that's not really my main passion in this hobby. My main passion, as it turns out, which would have surprised me when I got into this hobby, turns out to be vintage pens, especially the more unusual ones. So I did a pens in use a few years ago, back when the Ukraine was in the news and we were talking impeachments and stuff. This is from the Ukrainian Ministry of Coal. So I did a special on it where I got, air quotes, abducted by the FBI and questioned by an orange guy and a lady named Nancy. But anyway, it is a very nice pen, and sadly, Senator no longer makes pens like this. I've heard it compared to the Mont Blanc 149. In fact, ODE has a video doing so. I can't make that comparison because I've never even touched a Mont Blanc 149. When I list out my fantasy pens, it doesn't even appear there. Maybe someday, but there's a lot of other things pen-wise that I'd prefer to buy first, and for that kind of cash, I don't know if the pen could ever live up to the hype. Maybe. I shouldn't knock a pen I've never used. So this is Rohrer and Klingner. This is such a funky color, I can't believe I like it. Rohrer and Klingner Alt-goldgrün. And doesn't this pen just show that ink off beautifully? Hopefully the video picks that up. I just love how this ink looks on the page. And of course, I use my cell phone because I can't work that hard. I photographed these writing samples and the pens, and you can find the link to that in the video description. I put them on an Evernote page. You know, I make an Evernote page for each pen episode I make, unless you go back, to the old ones when I wasn't doing that. And I try to put some close-ups and photographs. Usually for pens in use, it's just a picture of the writing and of the pens. Depending on what the pen is that I'm reviewing or first impressioning one week, it could be just a photo of the pen and the writing. Or, if it has notable features, I may do close-ups of different parts. So, yeah. And I've gotten more organized. One of these days I want to talk about what goes on behind the scenes of making one of these videos. It's waiting on two things. I've done really well cleaning up the living room, but I want to finish before I film it, because you're going to necessarily see part of my living room. Not all of it, I mean privacy and all that, but you'll see part of it. Actually, the trick-or-treaters coming to me on October 31st will see more of my living room than you ever will. But anyway, part of what I want to do is show some things about my workflow that I do. So anyway, this is the pen that I did a first impression this week. This is a Waterman Reflex. Definitely looks like an 80s or 90s pen. It's a student pen for sure. And a name like that and a look like this, definitely designed to appeal to the student market. So we have a Watcherman Reflex. Has a medium nib in it that is surprisingly enjoyable. I mean, I figured this would be a good pen because it's a good brand. I was surprised by how well I liked this pen. The ink in it, again, is Rohrer and Klingner. Scabiosa, which is an iron gall ink. I do want to do a video one of these days on iron gall inks. A couple of years ago, I purchased a few oak galls. I want to do a video kind of on the chemistry of iron gall inks. That's just one of those things that I just haven't managed to find time to do. Maybe I can justify it. I can find a way to mix it with chemistry, like the chemistry that I teach. We'll have to see. But iron gall inks are interesting. There aren't as many made anymore, but Rohrer and Klingner has two of them. It has this one and There's a blue one, and I don't remember what it's called. And Quizzy has a couple. And I'm sure there's more that I'm just not thinking of, but not a lot. They can be a little more high maintenance. So those are the pens and inks that I used this week. So those are the pens that I've been using this week. Some inks and so on. Not much change from last week, but you didn't get to see a writing sample last week. So hey, we're stepping up. No word yet on my computer repair, but one of those things I'll just be waiting with literally bated breath to find out how that goes. In the meantime, I was reading this week about a school in Texas, and I hear these stories and immediately am interested. This school in Texas, and South Lake Carroll Independent School District. Something like that. Anyway, apparently they had a staff meeting about the new House Bill. I'm sorry, I'm reading so I get you the right number. 33979, which is basically an anti-critical race theory bill. And they were told about balancing and having opposing viewpoints and so on. And somebody brought up the Holocaust. And apparently you got to balance that one too. Of course, it was an administrator put on the spot with a law they didn't understand, which honestly was probably a bit too quickly written in response to the outrage of the week, and not well thought through, because what it does is it micromanages school districts, and then you get administrators put in awkward spots like that. Of course, the school district later clarified and said, no, there's only one side to that Holocaust issue, although there's some white supremacists out there who might disagree on that. But anyway, that's the problem with micromanaging things. That's why there's something to be said for some local control and local control over curriculum and so on. Again, I think a lot of those anti-critical race theory bills came up because all of a sudden that became the cause du jour in the right-wing states. And so, we all got to have laws and stop this thing that isn't really happening. But what you end up doing is going too far. And, just because an issue is controversial doesn't mean there's really two sides. Like, evolution. There are some people who think evolution is quite controversial, but you better teach the creationist side. Okay, which one? The Muslim story, the Buddhist story, the Hindu story? Oh, you mean the evangelical Christian story. So, again, it's not a two sides thing. One's got science on its side, the other one's got a collection of mythology. So, how do you decide whether something's truly controversial or whether something is just controversial because some people refuse to accept the evidence? So, that's why I don't like laws like that. It's too constraining to local authority, and it's too inflexible. And it just opens the door to people, whatever it is they don't like. Oh, you gotta show the other side. Oh, that is too controversial for my little bunchkin. And, I'm sorry, but I'm not a fan of sheltering kids anyway. I mean, to a certain extent, especially when they're little, but, they live in the real world. You got to prepare them for it, and they got to be ready for, that's kind of uncomfortable. Oh, I'm uncomfortable in this biology class because that's kind of going against my religion. Sorry, maybe your religion's wrong. So, and the Holocaust thing, so there are schools worried about teaching about race relations in the country. I'm sorry, it's a dark history in this country. I know we don't like it. I'm uncomfortable with it. I mean, who wouldn't be? We like to put our own country, whichever country we're from, up on a pedestal, and we don't like to acknowledge those dark things in our history, and you got to. Just like if you've done something in your own past that you regret, you don't ignore it. You say, okay, yeah, that was something really stupid that I did. That's something really horrible and wrong that I did. And I am going to be a better person now. And as a country, let's be a better country. And you can't really be a better country if you refuse to acknowledge some of those things because it makes a few people uncomfortable. So, anyway, I put the text of the bill there. There's bills like in, well, laws now, in several states. So, but I put the Texas version because that's what the article was about. But on other exciting things, you know, if we're going to talk controversy, I had a comment on one of my videos this week on, I don't know if I did this video this week or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember when I released it, but it was on these 4 pens, Kaweco Sports. And this person says, "Why are you not considering Chinese pocket pens? Couldn't be political, could it?" I don't know, since I'm doing a video on Kaweco Sport models, there might be a reason I don't have any Chinese pens in it. Yeah, asking the question, oh, have you considered doing a video on Chinese pocket pens? Perfectly legitimate. No, I've used 1 or 2. I didn't care for them, and I thought so little of them I never bought one, and don't plan to be doing a video on them. That simple. There are Chinese pens I like, just not the pocket pens I've tried. And no, I'm not going to just keep buying pocket pens just to find out one I like. This is a hobby that I am sharing with you, and I buy pens that interest me, and I haven't bought any pens in a few months now. So, yeah. And but the thing that I didn't like with that comment was adding the motivation. Oh, I can see your psychology. No, you really can't. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because because otherwise you get comments like that and you're just like, yeah, whatever, dude. And you just ignore the rudeness and move on. But the reason I'm bringing it up is it kind of went along with that whole Texas thing that I started this with the balancing the views of the Holocaust. No, not at the same level of the Holocaust, but the whole idea of assigning motivations. And our whole discourse that's, no, you don't just disagree with me. You're the enemy. And there's something nefarious about your opposition. And that's what I didn't like. This person likes, I forget what brand they said, I don't really care, but they said that they like whatever pen it was, and I just like, yeah, I haven't tried that one, haven't really felt any desire to. This isn't my favorite form factor. Why would I buy it in the Chinese version? Heck, they weren't even selling Chinese pens like that in the US at the time I bought this, so... So anyway, it's just kind of interesting and depressing. You know, just why do we have to assume people's motivations? Just ask them a question. Oh, have you considered reviewing any Chinese pens? Yes, and I have in the past, and will in the future. I have a fun magnetic filler I want to be sharing one of these days soon. But I have no desire to try out any of the pocket pens. So, if the Chinese if the Chinese make a pocket pen more similar to like the Pilot E95S, maybe I'll consider it. But this form factor, not so much. All right, moving on. I guess I mentioned the computer status at the beginning, which is in limbo, waiting. I guess it's arrived at the repair center, so we'll see. Hey, one more reason I'm glad I haven't bought any pens in a few months. There is something to be said for saving money, and I'm glad I am. I mean, I'm not probably as frugal as I should be, but I'm relatively careful with what I spend. Because, yeah, I have set aside the cash right now that if I need to replace the computer, it's there. So I just don't want to, but you know, if I have to, I have to. This is one of those have-to-have things, I would say. Fun this week. We had snow, what was it? Tuesday night and on and through Wednesday. It didn't really accumulate much here. It just would snow and would melt. So the ground was white, but it didn't really build up. When a little ways west of here to the next town to the west, which is a little bit higher elevation, it did accumulate a bit there and broke off a lot of branches and knocked over a few trees. And the school over there, because we have a rural campus that's just our K through 6 kids over there that come from way out in the country. They had a power outage in the town, so they had a delay of school. And then, just for giggles and snorts, all the water laying on the flat roof part of the building decided to come on in, and the opening it found was right through a conduit that led all the power for the building down into the circuit breakers. We got very lucky there because there was a blackout, so no sparking and so on happened. And they were able to dry everything out and repair the leak and, not destroy the whole electrical system of a school. So we got very lucky there. You go further west on into Montana, they were closing highways, and we were doing school pictures, and our photographer actually comes from a small town in Montana, and she realized that, nope, not getting home tonight. Her husband texted her a picture out the front door. He opened up the front door, and the snow was about this high outside the front door, and it's like, yeah. So she was going to stay with some friends in the first town over in Montana, and hope she could get home eventually. This time of year, I'm sure she's home by, Friday when this is published. But, I don't know if she'll ever come back and do photographs in my town again, because awkward. And then the last thing I wrote, I did a couple of shorts this week about peppers. Still kind of working on them, but just about done. Had a lot of peppers this year. A lot of other crops were disappointing. Tomatoes were disappointing. Eggplant, I got a few, but then they kind of stalled. Squash, there's a few out there I'm going to pick here. But, yeah, just not that great. I guess I have some Brussels sprouts. The carrots did well. The beets did well. My beans came up all woody. I guess they started too late. I don't know. But every year is different. This year was not a banner garden year, and you get those years, especially when you have a severe drought like we did this year. So even though I water, it's not the same as getting natural water. That leads me to a book I finished. I'm going to be talking about... I want to get some good B-roll footage, so I may push it off a few weeks, but... It's called Cadillac Desert, and it's all about water in the West. And we're kind of on that border of usable or not usable type of area. And I actually saw an interesting video this week. A guy, he basically travels around the country in his RV, and he went to Lake Mead this week. And he was driving through what used to be the lake in his RV because the water is down that much. So... to get my B-roll footage, I don't have the budget or the time to go that far, but I'm going to try and get a couple of dams in the area just as B-roll. It'll be fun. Give me another excuse to get out, enjoy life a little. Yeah, okay, I've got a weird way of enjoying life, but, it's me. I run a fountain pen channel, so, we can't all be... I had a clever word there and it just slipped my mind, but... It's also 8:30 at night, so I'm allowed to have things slip my mind. But anyway, I want to thank you for watching. And if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, and the occasional North Dakota or other topic, I would invite you to subscribe. And hey, I brought up a couple of topics here. Do you think that these bills, like the one in Texas, are micromanaging? I guess if you think there's two sides to the Holocaust issue, I probably don't care what you think. Am I overreacting to being accused of having political reasons for not doing Chinese pocket pens? And did you get snow this week? So let us know down in the comments. As always, I want to thank you for watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.